Okay, I can see how this one could give you a little bit of trouble here. For the most part, we're not going to deal with numbers that big, but with the computer, sometimes it's just random. So we'll start off by square rooting both sides of this, and we put our plus minus right there. So we get n equals plus or minus the square root of 726. So that's a pretty big number. And so our perfect squares are 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, and so on. And so what I've kind of told y'all is you can start high or low and work your way through this and figure out what perfect square divides evenly into 726. There are a couple other ways you can approach this. You could, and I've seen some people do this in class, you could take 726 and just start by dividing it by 2 and see what you get there. And see if you could divide it by 2 again, which I don't think it will be divisible by 2, but then you could try to divide by 3 and so on. And typically that could work also, but I'm going to show you a little trick for those that watch this video. You will need one of the graphing calculators, which you can download for free on your phone. Just do Calculate 84 or 84 Calculate, one of those, and it's a free calculator. So the trick is this: you can take the value that you're trying to square root, which is 726, and divide it by, and I'm going to pick x right here, x, and then squared. So what I'm doing essentially is I'm dividing 726 by a perfect square. Now that perfect square right now is x squared, it's a variable, and so what I can do is I can go into my table. So if you see right here, it says table above the window, or I'm sorry, over here above graph, it says table. So if I press second and then the graph button, it will take me to this table, and it will show me what happens if I divide by 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared, 5 squared, because remember my x value is being squared in my equation right here. And so I want to look and find which one divides evenly. And so far I'm getting decimal, 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 so on. So on, there we go. Oh, I hit it right here. So it's divisible by 11 squared, and the result is 6. So what is 11 squared? Because what I essentially did in the calculator is I took 726, divided it by 11 squared, and I got 6, right? And so that would mean that 11 squared, if you put that in your calculator, that's 121. So 726 divided by 121 equals 6, okay? And so what that means is that 726 is equal to 6 times 121. If I were to multiply both sides by 121, that's what I would end up with. And so what I can do, that will tell me now what I can split this into. So I'm going to have n equals plus or minus the square root of 121 times the square root of 6. And so the square root of 121 is a perfect square. It's 11. So n equals plus or minus 11 square root of 6. So that's kind of a little trick to deal with those larger numbers, is you can put it in the calculator like that. There are other approaches. In case you're interested, I was talking about one of them where you could start by dividing it by 2 because it's an even number. So let's see what happens there. Just kind of show you some other approaches. So let's see, 726 divided by 2. So that gives us that 363. Now 363 is not even, so it can't divide by 2 again, but you can try 3. So let's divide by 3. And so there I get my 121. So then I'd have 3 times 121. And so hopefully you would recognize, oh, that's my perfect square right there. I can square root that. And so then 726 would be equal to 2 times 3 times 121. And you can square root the 121. And then the 2 times 3 would be stuck inside the radical signs right there. So if you're trying to square root that right there. So hopefully that didn't confuse you too much, but these larger numbers will be few and far between. We're not going to have to deal with that too often. And typically our perfect square will be within one of these smaller numbers here. So this was kind of an outlier.